So over the years, adoption has changed, right? It went from being extremely closed to being extremely open. It's that pendulum that's swung back and forth, right?
And more of your
And
own
yes,
choice.
your choice, what you want to have, what you want to do. You know, the agency isn't in control anymore of what openness looks like. Instead, it's up to the individuals and your adoptive couple. And so how do you deal with that as you've seen it? Even though it's positive for most people, how do you guys deal with it? Because that was not allowed even when you guys were first, you know, to introduce to adoption.
Well, and I think for me, because I've been able to see my little boy's family adopt 2 more children and how different it is even now. I'm always, at first I was like, oh, this is so great. And then you see what they get and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have got that. I wish I could have seen them more often after placement. I wish I could have taught to them as much as I wanted to. I wish I could have called them on the phone. I wish I wouldn't have had only one option to meet them prior to placement. And I definitely, I think a big thing for me is I have to acknowledge that it bothers me. I have to acknowledge that part that just is like, that I'm jealous, and then I acknowledge it and I address it and I talk about it, and then I look at it and I think, you know what? Look at her. Look at how she has healed and how happy she is. I could not, where she was a year after placement, oh my gosh, I wasn't even close to being that far at all. And I have to look at it and think how great it is, because it's given birth parents, at least, I mean, I don't know much about the place children as far as the kids go, but seeing the healing that takes place because they can see them and they have the opportunity to support and make, like, confirm the parents. Like it's I want to be able to confirm, like, you guys, and to be able to say, I am so happy that you're his mom and dad, and I am so happy that I got to choose you. Like, I handpicked you. Like, that's super awesome. And
That's a really hard attitude, though, I think, to have. It's pretty incredible for you to have it, to be able to say, I don't have exactly what I would like in it. I can see everybody else, or not everybody, but a lot of people having what I would like to have had, and just be happy for them.
I think that's normal behavior for anybody to compare any aspects of their lives to anybody else's aspect of their lives. This specifically, I have to agree with you. There's a part of me that felt cheated, that I was cheated out of that joy and that ability to be able to have, you know, all these other options, and how it would have helped me through so many different grieving parts, and have a different open forum with the parents, you know.
Well, and it's not about wanting to be, I didn't want to see him to be his mom.
No.
I didn't want to see him to be like, oh, this is my baby. My baby was 3 days old in the hospital. That was my baby.
Yeah.
As soon as I placed him, that wasn't my baby anymore. And I love, like, it was to see him interact with his mom and dad and see the love in their cute relationships and how they play and, like, have fun. It wasn't about trying to replace them. I mean, that's why I chose them.
There's an unconditional love that I think every birth mother, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but we have this unconditional love for these adoptive parents, because there's a huge amount of trust and love that we have to have, not only within ourselves, but to those people, to hand our child to these people and say, you know, give this child the life that I wish I could give this child, and I can't. I'm not capable at this time in my life. And so through the years, I do see these other women, and knowing my experience, there's negatives and there's positives. So when I look at these relationships, I kind of just go, yeah, wait 10 years. But at the same time, I do have that mixed emotions of, oh, how would that be? How that would have just made such a huge difference. And it makes me more empathetic to the women who do come to me in secret, who've, you know, had their child literally ripped from their arms, and to think, God, I can't even imagine how they feel when they hear the word adoption. I mean, it's just probably like a total knife just tearing them apart. So I can kind of relate to that feeling of seeing these new birth moms and they're like, yay, adoption. I'm over here going, you know, there's nothing yay about it, okay? You're just starting.
Well, there's so many ups and downs to all of it.
I like what you said, that there are pros and cons, and with more open adoptions there have been more problems that we haven't had to deal with in the past, more complications. And so with every little bit that we change and have different amounts of openness causes some great things as well as some new hard things,
Yeah, what boundaries are you going to set? And you have to communicate that. You have to communicate that, because without it, you just sit in the unknown, and you don't know what's going to work for them. And at least for me, as my opinion as a birth parent, I would rather them tell me that they don't want contact, or that they don't want to have as often, contact as often, than to assume that they do, or assume that they don't, and just kind of sit in this unknown
Right. Oh, I agree.
area.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to help sustain them and support them and do what's best for this child that we all love.
I see a lot, like on online forums and stuff like that, where either the adoptive parent or the birth parent is asking, well, why is somebody doing this or that or this or that? Well, why don't you ask them?
Yeah.
And I know that's hard. Like, I don't want to be too flippant about it, because I know it's difficult to say, you know what, you're being really socially awkward right now, and I don't understand why you're being socially awkward. I don't understand why you don't understand why this is so important to me. You should understand why this is so important. But you know what? People, like, things are not important to me that probably should be, and that are really important to all kinds of people in my life, whether they're birth parents or not birth parents, and so just being really open. And when you have a question, whenever you say, why did that happen, and you say it to somebody else, just stop and go and ask that person. That's just relationship stuff.
That's where I feel like being an advocate for open adoption, based on my experience, to tell these new moms and these, from both aspects of boundaries, and being open and honest no matter what.
100%.
And then, yeah, exactly. And no matter how painful it is, work through it. If you're going to have an open adoption, you need to be prepared for all the what ifs in life. And every parent goes through that. I go through that with my son, and I'm thinking, I'm probably screwing up now. But I'm open about it, and I want to be the best parent I can be, but there's no such thing. And so we're all going to make mistakes. But to have another parent involved brings one more parent that child wants to learn how to manipulate. And where's the adoptive parents standing as the discipline? And
it's got to be really clear.
It's got to be clear, because I think,
Charity, you've had a lot of experience too of open adoptions, but also that there can be boundaries even in really super open adoptions, right?
There have to be, absolutely. You know what I mean? You're going to set them out based on what's comfortable for everybody involved, but they have to be there. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart, and people's feelings are going to get hurt.
When I think sometimes when people hear the word boundaries, they think of rigidity and stuff like that.
But in fact, boundaries are actually pretty soft, kind of surprisingly, So some of the boundaries are things like, okay, are we going to get together on Christmas? And is it Christmas Day? Is it Christmas Eve? Do we call on Christmas Day? You know what I mean? Do we have a party beforehand? Do we interact with your extended family? Do we interact? You know what I mean? There are boundaries there. Do we stop by unannounced? Do you call before you stop by? There are things like that that are not bad. You know what I mean? They actually define a little bit better, like anybody else, what you're comfortable with. And I think that's what really makes an adoption work when it's open.
And a lot of the boundaries just develop naturally.
They
They're not always just like these,
No.
this, and that.
I
You just
agree. And then they evolve.
create boundaries just like you do in any other relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
I figure it's always like taking on new in-laws, new family. Anytime you have an adoption, it's just adding a whole new family involved, which means you're going to fight and you're going to argue and you're going to be disappointed, and you're also going to misinterpret body signals sometimes and body language, and that's okay, because we forgive our family, you know what I mean, and we try and move past that. We work through it. The same with you're adding an adoptive couple or a birth family to your family. We have to be a little bit more kind and a little more understanding and realize we're going to make mistakes.
That's a really good
Yeah.
point. Forgiving your adoptive couple for being an idiot, forgiving your
Or the birth mom for being crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just being able to forgive, because I see too many adoptive couples jump out of open adoptions because of one little thing, and it just it doesn't
it's petty
have to have
usually.
Well, because you can't support them and sustain them and
Right.
help them if you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is to help them and be their biggest advocate. And sometimes they find you more of a threat than an advocate over something so petty and so stupid, and how devastating that is from all aspects, let alone the child.